I never imagined I'd fall for a cleaning lodya. Millionaire's heart was forever changed. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with anticipation and dread. I stood atop my grand staircase, peering down at the polished floor I rarely appreciated, my hands trembling around a glass of expensive whiskey. I could feel the chill of my mansion's opulence wrapping around me, a suffocating embrace. Then, everything shattered the moment I saw her. Her name was Mia, and she was so much more than a cleaning lady. The way she moved through my home was mesmerizing. She glided like a whisper, her mop swirling like a dancer, and the fragrance of lavender and lemon cleaner hung in the air behind her, a stark contrast to the emptiness I felt inside. She wasn't just scrubbing away dirt, she was scrubbing away my loneliness, but it was her eyes that did me in. They were a stormy blue, revealing depths of stories untold, shadows lurking. I could see pain in them, a struggle that mirrored my own. I felt a connection. I yearned to know her. It was intoxicating and dangerous that and the weeks that followed, each encounter ignited a spark in my chest. While I took calls on my sleek, black iPhone, she would hum quietly, a soft melody piercing the silence of my lavish life. I would glance her way, and she would catch my gaze, her cheeks flushing with a gentle warmth. Each smile was electric, the air crackling between us. But I was trapped in a gilded cage, pretending I didn't notice her. My friends would be horrified if they knew I was developing feelings for someone seen as lowly. Their laughter echoed in my mind. "You can't be serious." They'd sneer if I mentioned Mia. I craved her company, yet fear was a heavy blanket suffocating the hope that sparkled in my heart. Then, one fateful afternoon, as thunder rolled in the distance and the sky darkened ominously, I stumbled upon Mia in the library. She was dusting off a bookshelf, her hair spilling over her shoulders like a cascade of sunlight. I couldn't help but feel the weight of my privilege pressing down on me. As I stepped closer, the room pulsed with an electric tension. The air crackled. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging us into brief darkness. My heart raced as I grasped her wrist, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my fingers. The world outside melted away, became a distant roar. In that moment, time stood still. The storm rumbled outside, but inside me, a storm brewed too, one of longing and fear. And then she looked at me. Her expression shifted, clouded with confusion and something else, something deeper. The air thickened with unspoken words and a shared intimacy that terrified me. But just then, the lights flickered back to life, and the moment shattered. "Sorry, Mr. Windsor," she whispered, pulling away, her cheeks burning hot with embarrassment. "I shouldn't." Before she could finish, a loud banging echoed from the front door, and we both jumped, the moment severed. I ran to the window, peering out into the torrential downpour. Who was at my door? I was too late. I turned back just as Mia slipped out of the room, leaving me breathless and hollowed. I fell back against the wall, the coldness of the marble biting into my skin. There was a gaping hole in my heart, a question forming in my mind. What would happen if I chased after her? Could I really break the rules of my world for the woman who was busy cleaning it? Then, just as I steeled myself to make a choice, I heard voices murmuring in the hall. It wasn't just any conversation, it was my name, and the tone was sharp, angry. My stomach dropped. If they found out, hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments. Which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The voices grew louder, the tension in my chest tightening as I caught fragments of their conversation. Familiar tones, laced with disappointment and anger, filled the expansive hall. My friendsome so-called friends were here, just a few feet away, the timing almost cruel. I could only see their silhouettes through the frosted glass. I pressed my back against the wall, unseen but fully aware that they had come to pry into my life, and I had no way to escape their judgment. "Have you seen how he's been acting?" one of them sneered, his tone dripping with disdain. "It's embarrassing. He's gone full hermit." "Just because a few dust motes have started getting in his way," another voice chimed in, a blend of mockery and concern. "You mean that cleaning lady? He could do better. He's ruining his status." "I thought he was smarter than this," they laughed, a sound that sliced through me. Each chuckle was a chain clanking onto my heart, pulling me back into the shadows of my privilege and the expectations I had thought I could escape. I wanted to yell, to shove past this facade of wealth they wore like armor. I wanted to tell them that my worth wasn't tied to my name or the insignia on my cufflinks. It was about connection, about diving into the storm with someone who made the world feel warm and alive. Instead, I gripped the edge of the doorframe, clenching my teeth to suppress my rising anger. I stood paralyzed, wishing to dart into the library after Mia, to confess my growing feelings and to shield her from cruelty. But what could I say? How could I explain a bond that felt both terrifying and thrilling? They wouldn't understand. Mia was so much more than a cleaning lady. She was the radiance that shattered my polished existence. But in this moment, surrounded by criticisms, all I could feel was the isolation tightening around me like a noose. I was suffocating in a room full of wealth and yet unfilled emptiness. Let's just confront him. If he can't see reason, maybe we should remind him of who he is. A hard voice cut through my thoughts that I made a sudden decision, my heart pounding against my ribcage. I couldn't stand to be a part of this conversation, of their judgment any longer. I needed to find Mia. The thought of opening the door to my friends, of letting them catch me being vulnerable with someone they deemed below me, ignited a spark of rebellion. I wanted to step into the storm outside one I could share with her, but as I turned, a familiar heartbeat echoed from the room. A soft sound that clawed at my resolve. It was weak but unmistakable. Mia had returned. My stomach clenched as I looked back, feeling unprepared for whatever moment lay ahead. She stood at the threshold of the library, her brow furrowed in apprehension. Her expression seemed a mirror to my tumultuous heart, conflicted, troubled yet hopeful. I saw her trembling slightly, clearly unsure whether she should step closer or retreat further into the shadows. A spark of something flickered between us, almost tangible in the air. "Windsor," she began softly, the words caught in her throat. "I didn't mean to intrude." Before she could finish, the confrontation at the door became too loud to ignore. I couldn't remain in the library, her stormy blue eyes wide with concern and confusion. Would my friends follow me? Would they expose the tenuous bond we had cultivated? "Mia, wait." I rushed toward her, desperation lacing my words, but just as she turned to leave, something about her sadness broke me further. I surged forward, reaching out to grasp her wrist again. "Please. Don't go." She hesitated, the weight of the moment hanging between us. "It's not," but just as she opened her mouth to speak, the door swung open with a dramatic creak, revealing the storm of laughter and curiosity that awaited us. My friends stood there, their expressions a mix of surprise and delight, as if they had uncovered a scandal. "Mia," one of them called out, eyes gleaming maliciously with intentions I dreaded. "So this is who you've been neglecting us for?" Heart thundering, I turned back to Mia, silently pleading for her to stay, to fight against the tide crashing upon us. But all she could do was pull her wrist from my grasp and step back, retreating into the shadows just out of my reach, and in that moment, as the laughter grew louder, spreading like wildfire, the walls that had separated my worlds began to blur. I realized that the most destructive storm wasn't the one brewing outside but the tempest raging inside me. I had no idea how to salvage it all. The echo of their disdain filled the air as my heart sank deeper. All hope clashed violently against the realization that I was losing her, completely, but in that chaos, a flicker of defiance sparked within me, casting a new light on the shadows. I would not let them tear apart what we had begun, not without a fight. I took a step forward, determined, my voice stealing as I spoke. Everyone, there's something you all need to know. The air grew stifling, eyes turned to me, and a silence enveloped us like a shroud. Whatever words I was about to share, they would forever change the course of my life and Mia's. The storm that lingered was far from over. The silence stretched uncomfortably, almost palpable, as every gaze in the room locked onto me. My heart raced, the pounding in my ears loud enough to drown out the laughter that had previously filled the air. It was now replaced by an expectant stillness, as if the universe had paused, holding its breath for my next words. "Mia is not just a cleaning lady," I started, the words catching in my throat as I searched for the strength to continue. My voice trembled but carried an unmistakable conviction. "She's someone who brings warmth and light into a world that feels far too dim. She matters." The confused expressions of my friends morphed into looks of mockery, but I pressed forward. "You all laugh and sneer, but you don't see her. You don't know her story. We all have our struggles, our burdens. Just because she wears a uniform doesn't mean she's less deserving of respect or kindness." What's this? A familiar face, once a friend, now an antagonist, cut in coldly. "Are you saying you've fallen for her? That you want to date a maid?" Laughter erupted again, but this time it felt brittle, teetering on the edge of something darker. No, I shot back, urgency creeping into my tone, frustration choking the laughter that had once seemed harmless. "Not just fallen. I see potential, passion in her. I see someone who can teach me more about living than any of you ever have. I'm tired of pretending to be someone I'm not." The room remained still, like the moment before a storm, charges building in the air. Faces I once cherished were now twisted with disbelief and scorn. I could sense the revulsion they felt for the revelation I had just laid bare, a wealth of emotion that fell on deaf ears. Mia lingered at the threshold, her figure shrouded in uncertainty, the flickering shadows giving her an ethereal presence. I could see her anguish, her heart in tatters as she stood in the crossfire of our worlds. The unsettling tug in my chest urged me to reach out to her again, yet my friends remained a barrier I had thought I could overcome. My confession stood in stark contrast to the life I had been raised to embrace. "Mia," I called, abandoning my confrontation with them for the moment, yearning to pull her back from the precipice. "Please don't listen to them. You're so much more than their words. You've changed everything for me." But she only shook her head, tears brightening her eyes, the resolve crumbling beneath her. "You should go." She moved as if retreating into a place where the light couldn't reach her. "You don't have to fight for me. You have everything they're offering, a life laid out for you. I'm just a distraction." My heart plummeted. This unyielding belief that she was unworthy of my struggle, me feelings wrapped around us, tightening like a vice. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat almost unbearable. "You're not a distraction, Mia. You're a choice, and I choose you." The words hung in the air like a fragile breath, electrifying yet dangerous. For a fleeting moment, I thought I had reached her, but the flicker of hope was quickly crushed when she took another step back. "You don't understand," she said, her voice barely a whisper, shaking with the weight of her own doubts. "You really don't." A sob caught in my chest, mixing with the churning chaos in my mind. Had I misread everything? Had our connection been just a mirage? As I battled my swirling turmoil, Jake, one of my so-called friends, stepped forward, his insidious voice dripping with condescension. "Why fight this, Windsor? Go back to the world that's waiting for you. You want to ruin your life over something as trivial as this?" The laughter resumed, but it sounded hollow, a chorus of cruelty that drowned out the voice of my heart. But then a small flicker of defiance ignited within me, merging with my desperation to bridge this divide. I wouldn't give in. "No. I won't let you dictate my life." I roared, my throat raw, the anger exploding forth, raw and liberating. Love isn't trivial. It's powerful and worth fighting for, even in a storm. And you can't take that from me. The laughter faltered, replaced by looks of surprise and trepidation. But wrapping my mind around Mia became harder with every mocking glance exchanged among my companions. I could feel the unyielding weight of the past crashing against the tender hope I felt towards a future with her. Mia's gaze fell, a painful sadness washing over her face, her body shivering like a leaf caught in a squall. Please don't do this. You have to understand, they'll never accept me. It'll just drag you down, and you deserve so much more. Her voice quivered with hidden fears, drowned in self-doubt. That I stepped closer, craving the warmth of her skin against mine, the tether I felt when we were together. I can't choose the easier route, Mia. I refuse to give up on us. Your heart is worth everything. But before she could respond, a loud crash echoed through the hall. The tension snapped as the door was flung open wider, a gust of wind sweeping in like an intruder, freezing the moment. The sight that met our eyes made my heart drop, leaving a chasm of horror in its wake. Standing in the doorway, framed by the wind and darkness, was my father, a figure I had avoided for far too long. He was not alone. Beside him stood a woman I had never met before, but the glint of recognition in Mia's eyes told me everything I needed to know. Eyes locked with Mia's, my voice trembled as the realization crept in. What's happening? Panic surged through me as I swiveled to face my father, but my gaze still remained tethered to Mia. Just a little visit, son, my father said, tone unyielding, his face reflecting disappointment and something darker. The storm that had begun swirling within me now felt like a tempest threatening to sweep us all away. My world was unraveling before me, and yet, I was certain of one thing: the fight for love had just begun. My heart raced, every pulse a painful reminder of the new chasm that had erupted between my past and my present. As my father strode forward, an unsettling aura of authority cloaked him like a suffocating fog, swallowing the room whole. The laughter faded, leaving an echoing silence charged with tension. Mia stood at the center, her eyes wide with shock and fear. The fragment of a moment I had held on to where love and respect overpowered judgment crackled like the air before a storm. Dad, I managed, my voice tremulous as I faced the figure I had endeavored to avoid. This isn't what you think. Then enlighten me, he shot back, the coldness of his gaze flaring as he flicked his attention to Mia. This is the girl to whom you've attached yourself? A cleaning lady? The disdain dripped from his words, mingling with disbelief and a recognition that made Mia shrink further, her bravery tested against a tidal wave of my father's prejudice. Stop, I shouted, anger so powerful it threatened to erupt from somewhere deep within. You don't get to dictate who I love. You can't judge her based on your narrow-minded ideas. Mia has more worth than you'll ever understand. The room felt impossibly small as silence reigned once more, the air thick with seething resentment and tense silence. I glanced at Mia, whose countenance was etched with sorrow and an overwhelming heaviness that shot through me like a spear. She drew her arms around herself, whispering as if to convince herself, you shouldn't fight for someone like me, but I could not allow that notion to take hold. It ignited a flame in me that I couldn't ignore. You are worth every battle. You are more than just a job title, more than what anyone sees when they look at you. You're my choice. Yet, the look in her eyes haunted me, a mix of disbelief and admiration laced with an undeniable fear. I turned once more to my father, who remained unyielding, unimpressed by anything I had just declared. Love can be blinding, son, he addressed me, his tone carrying a warning. This isn't some fairy tale you can drape over your life. You have responsibilities, expectations to uphold. Don't let some fleeting infatuation jeopardize your future. Fleeting? I snarled, grappling with the clenching grip of his words and their implications. You think this is just a phase? I've never felt this way before. It's real. And I refuse to let history dictate who I should or shouldn't love. Just because you see her as beneath us doesn't mean I do. Mia's eyes, darting nervously back and forth, shut as if trying to block out our heated exchange. I felt a growing urgency to protect her, to shield her from the world that continued to push us apart. But the more I fought against my father's relentless grip, the more the bitterness seemed to seep through my resolve. From beside my father, the unfamiliar woman stepped forward, her dismal expression a stark contrast to the haughty air around my father. A heaviness clung to her presence, a silent weight pulling at the edges of the confrontation. "You should listen to your father, dear," she murmured softly. "It's about time you start thinking more about your image." My heart ached for Mia. Behind our stew of confrontation lay questions, guilt, and the uncertainty of hope that seemed further away with every passing moment. Would she follow me back to the warmth of our connection? Or would my fight only force her to turn away completely? "Mia," I said gently, pushing through the heaviness, "I will do anything to stand with you. But you have to trust me. Please." As her gaze flickered from my father to the mysterious woman returning with judgment, I caught a hint of something in her eyes, a flicker of understanding, a glint of hope perhaps. "I don't want to be the reason you're fighting with your father," she whispered, trembling. Maybe this is a sign." That I shook my head adamantly. "No, don't say that. This isn't a sign, this is just fear talking." My father interrupted, his voice seeping with skepticism. "You can save the theatrics for another time. This young woman," he gestured toward Mia with a dismissive wave, "is not prepared to enter our world. She will only weigh you down, Windsor." You know that deep down that I felt the unwelcome sensation of loss creep in, accompanied by a fear of losing the very thing I had fought so hard to embrace. "Don't you dare speak for her." My voice cracked, desperation rising like a flood. "You have no right." Yet, the strange woman leaned into the scene, her eyes narrowing as she focused on Mia with growing interest. "You know," she said casually, "I think there's a way to prove the worth of this association, a way to show that love can transcend barriers." Mia's brow furrowed in confusion, and I felt 9 kinds of chaos swirl within me. What did she mean by that? It didn't sit right. The glimmer of curiosity lighting in her eyes felt both dangerous and unfathomable. I turned back to my father, my chest tightening. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my heart now pounding with anxiety. Before any response could be given, Mia stood straighter, shifting her gaze away from the churning dispute as if she had chosen a path I knew nothing of. "I don't want to cause a rift in your family." But before she could finish, the strange woman's voice broke through, her tone almost smug. "Perhaps a competition I have in mind could help clarify everything. A test of loyalty and compatibility, if you will. Only then will you understand the significance of choice." In that moment, the weight of their eyes pierced my resolve. The room shifted beneath my feet, the ground feeling unstable as hope collided with anxiety. There it was, a challenge thrown down, and I had no way of knowing what new traps lay ahead. As Mia's gaze fell, heartbreak curling her lips downward, I could see the spark of fear entwining with doubt. The very ground where hope had blossomed now splintered before us, forming chasms too deep to ignore. I longed to reach out, to envelop her in my arms and shield her from this madness. But with every word left unspoken, it felt as though we were slipping further apart, the very essence of love threatened by a game I never asked to play. And as the tension built to a breaking point, I realized the true question lingering in our hearts: was our love strong enough to survive the demands of a wealthy world determined to keep us apart? The air hung thick with anxiety and anticipation as the words of the strange woman reverberated through me. A competition? The idea felt both absurd and infuriating. I looked toward Mia, and her gaze, which had been so vibrant just moments before, now shimmered with uncertainty. It was like watching a flower wilting under a relentless sun, each petal curling, losing its vitality, and I was at a loss for how to revitalize it. "I won't put you through that," I said, my voice lowered yet resolute. I refused to turn our love into some morbid spectacle for them to judge. But the strange woman smirked, the hint of enjoyment in her eyes unsettling me. "Oh, sweetness, love is the greatest competition of all. And if you truly believe in what you have, it will stand the test." Mia's face darkened with doubt, and she shifted her weight, subconsciously searching for an anchor. "I don't know if I want to participate in whatever this is, Windsor. It all feels wrong," she murmured, her voice trembling at the edges. I clenched my fists, fighting against the tangled emotions that surged within me, urgency to reassure her battling with the grim reality of our situation. "Mia, please don't let her get into your head. We've fought too hard to let this divide us. Let's leave, now. There are things at stake, son, my father interjected, his voice steely. Your future is more than just this pretentious romance. A public display may allow you both to understand the sacrifices necessary when entering our circle. That I couldn't solve the knot of my rage and despair as I faced the austere truth. My father seemed determined to leverage my relationship, using it as fodder for his own ambitions. Yet the fire that had ignited from our connection surged back, and I felt my heart beat defiantly, even in the face of his disapproval. Mia is not some pawn in your game, I hissed, stepping closer to her, ready to shield her from everything they represented. She isn't here for your approval, nor to play some twisted game of your design. Mia glanced at me, fear and admiration swirling in those gorgeous eyes, and I caught a flicker of hope between us. Windsor, she hesitated, her resolve still fragile as the shadows of doubt quivered above us. Mia, if we do this, it'll be on our terms, I insisted, my voice low but passionate. Well, define our own love story. Not them, not this. A spark of rebellion flickered in her expression before she whispered, but what if they're right? What if I'm not enough for you? The sheer vulnerability shook me to my core. No, I said firmly, you are everything. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, hoping the warmth between us could drown out their cold disdain. But as we stood united, the strange woman's eyes glinted with malevolence. Very well, then. Perhaps a challenge will ignite that fire within. I propose a series of tests, tasks requiring strength, intelligence, and dedication not only to each other but to our world. In 3 weeks, the stakes will be set, and the way forward will define your futures. My heart sank as the implications settled in. What if we fail? Ah, she teased, a malicious edge creeping into her tone, failure means more than just losing the goodwill of those you wish to impress. I turned to Mia, whose face was a canvas of anguish. You don't have to do this, I reiterated, a fierce urgency. We can walk away. Tears glistened in her eyes, yet a veil of determination glinted through her vulnerability. But what if I want to fight for us? What if I want to prove that love can rise above this? For a moment, the weight of our choices pressed down, suffocating yet invigorating. In her gaze, I saw something beyond fear, a burgeoning spirit ready to challenge the world. And even as my heart danced with refusal, I knew, I could not hold her back from fighting for a hope that shone like a distant star. If you're willing to face this, I'll stand beside you, I vowed, pulling her closer, feeling her warmth. I won't let anything come between us. The strange woman flipped her hair back, dismissing our resolve with an almost gleeful satisfaction. Excellent. May the games begin. Just as we settled into a fragile resolve, my phone vibrated in my pocket, breaking the suffocating silence. I pulled it out, and my heart dropped. A message from someone I had never expected to hear from again flickered on the screen. I know what you're about to face. Just remember, everything comes with a cost. Are you ready for the consequences? Mia glanced at the phone, her expression shifting into a mixture of concern and confusion. Before I could respond, a sharp breath escaped her lips, and she stepped back, her eyes wide and bright with an emotion I couldn't decipher. Where once stood a warrior now lingered a flicker of uncertainty. What did it say? She pressed, each word stacked with urgency. Without a thought, I tore my gaze from the ominous message and focused on her, keeping my voice steady despite the tempest in my heart. It's nothing important. Just distractions. We have each other, and that's what matters. But as I met her gaze, the shadows in her eyes deepened, threatening to envelop that last glint of hope. How could I convince her that we were stronger than anything, even as a storm brewed on the horizon? And as our futures quaked before us, I realized this would be a battle not just for our love, but a fight against the legacy our families insisted upon, and it might just cost us more than anyone could anticipate. The morning dawned gray and heavy, dull light filtering through the drapes, casting long shadows across the room. I lay beside Mia, our fingers intertwined but hearts racing for different reasons. The saying took root in my mind, the calm before the storm. Today marked the beginning of the tests, and it felt like I was standing at a precipice, peering into the unknown. "Mia," I whispered, careful not to break the fragile peace we'd forged, "are you sure about this?" Her face, still soft with sleep, held a flicker of warmth that contrasted sharply with the turmoil brewing inside me. I wanted to protect her from everything, including the inevitable disappointment that awaited us. Her eyes fluttered open, and in that moment, the real weight of the challenge dawned upon both of us. "I have to try, Windsor. I can't let fear dictate our love." There was a resolve in her voice that both thrilled and terrified me. This wasn't just a test of our bond, it was a test of all we had fought for against our families, against ourselves. I took a deep breath, trying to align my raging thoughts into something coherent. We need to stay focused. We can't let them manipulate us into doubting our love. My words, though sincere, felt weak in the face of the tasks we were about to face. The day dragged on, each moment laced with tension, the air thick with expectation. Our first task brought us to the opulent layout of the city's Grand Theater, an arena buzzing with the elite, where we were to showcase our compatibility in front of a crowd that openly scrutinized our every move. As we stepped onto the stage, the spotlight drew a line between us and them. The audience buzzed with a cacophony of murmurs. A line of contestants, equally uncertain yet competitive, stood before us, young lovers, couples tethered together by familiarity, each of them armed with their own history of struggles and victories. I could feel the weight of their gazes, measuring us against some invisible yardstick of worthiness. The first challenge involved a mind game, a puzzle meant to assess our united front. Laughter, anxious and hollow, echoed from the audience as we stumbled through the early pieces. It should have been easy, yet each wrong guess felt like a judgment upon our relationship, shadows darting across our optimism. Mia stayed beside me, her brow furrowed in concentration, yet I could see the doubt settling in like a persistent mist. "Focus on me," I urged softly, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. "We can do this if we stay together." But even as I spoke those words, my heart sank when I noticed a familiar face in the audience. Evelyn, my childhood friend turned rival, her expression a cross between amusement and disdain. My past was not merely a lingering ghost, it was here, a palpable threat woven into the fabric of our presentation. "Don't let her get to you," Mia whispered, glancing toward Evelyn, whose lips curled into an unsettling smile. Yet I could sense the unease in Mia's voice, the way she tightened her grip on my hand as if it were a lifeline. The next set of challenges revealed the depths of our vulnerabilities. Each round forced us to confront not only our relationship but our individual insecurities. A flashback of my father's cold demeanor swirled over us like a silent menace, while Mia's hidden fears whispered through the cracks of her resolve. "Mia," I said during a brief intermission, pulling her aside from the eager crowd. Her eyes were bright, but they held shadows of worry I desperately wanted to dispel. "We're stronger than this. I won't let them pull us apart. You mean too much to me." She hesitated before looking away, her gaze landing on the bustling crowd. "What if we put everything on the line and still lose?" Her voice tremored, the fear of failure morphing into a tangible weight between us. "Then we've fought with all we have. And I will still love you, no matter the outcome," I asserted, perhaps more for myself than her. But I was unprepared for the tear that slipped down her cheek, the vulnerability cutting through my resolve. "I just want to be enough for you," she confessed, her voice cracking like a fragile glass. "What if the world sees us as a mistake?" "Let them," I replied fiercely. "We'll define our love on our own terms. No one else's approval matters." A flicker of hope ignited behind her anguish, and in that brief moment, a silent agreement passed between us. We would emerge from this together, or not at all. But as the final challenge approached, the air shifted yet again. I distanced myself to gather my thoughts when my phone buzzed with another message, this time echoing with urgency. "Time's running out. If you truly love her, you must uncover the truth or it will all come crumbling down." My heart raced, sensing the weight of the words. What truth? What consequence awaited us lurking behind the veil of this gamesmanship? I looked over to see Mia in deep conversation with another contestant, yet my gut twisted, my concern for her overlaid with an edge of apprehension. Did I truly understand the stakes we were facing? And as I approached her, a smile fading from my lips ready to share the chilling message, I was struck by the sight of her laughing with him. That moment froze in time, sending ripples of doubt crashing over my heart. Her laughter, a sound I adored, now resonated in a different key, like a haunting melody echoing interrupted harmony. In the capricious arena of competition, I brushed against the chilling realization: could we withstand the entanglement of the games, or would we lose what mattered most in the pursuit of victory? And as the crowd roared for the next round, the weight of deception and love coiled around us, tightening like a noose. Whatever came next, I knew I would have to fight, not just against the challenges laid before us, but against the rising doubts threatening to tear us apart. The atmosphere within the Grand Theatre shifted abruptly, the audience's anticipation thickening the air as if they sensed the turmoil raging within me. MIA's laughter mixed with the thrumming ache in my chest, a discord that made my heart falter. She turned to me, her smile radiant, but the joyful spark in her eyes felt like a taunt rather than a soothing balm. "Windsor," she called, her voice laced with an innocence that, at that moment, felt too fragile against the weight of everything spiraling within me. I forced a smile, striding toward her, but all I could feel was the pull of insecurity tightening its grip as the realization set in. "You okay?" she asked, her voice dipped in concern, though she hadn't ascertained the source of my turmoil. She seemed blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath my facade, with her radiant happiness juxtaposing my dark thoughts. "Yeah. Just thinking about the next challenge," I said, an excuse that barely cloaked my unease. I studied the contestant beside her, a tall guy named Simon who wore arrogance like a badge of honor. His proximity to Mia felt like a betrayal, even though I knew she was simply being friendly. I could see the laughter still lingering on her lips, and it made me want to pull her away from him. "We should stick together, you know. These games can get intense." She raised an eyebrow, sensing the shift in my tone. "We just need to focus on us right now. It's just the two of us, Windsor." "Just us, right," I said, forcing back the rising tide of doubt. I prayed I could shove my jealousy aside long enough to make it through this trial, yet I couldn't shake the knot tightening in my stomach. The next round was announced, a psychological test to gauge our emotional synchronization. We were each taken to separate rooms for the first part, forced to confront our innermost thoughts alone. I sat at a small table adorned with a single flickering candle, staring into its flame as it danced, reflecting my rising anxiety. Questions flashed across a screen, probing deeply into our backgrounds and aspirations, the kind of stuff that cultivates intimacy but can also lay bare the fragility of our relationship. I answered questions about my childhood, about dreams that felt too far to grasp now, about failures that haunted me like specters, while each word felt heavier than the last. When it was finally time for us to reunite, I steeled myself, bracing for the emotional weight of her disclosures. Mia sat across from me, her face a canvas of vulnerability. Her brow furrowed, eyes glistening as she recounted her own fears of never being enough, of being constantly judged, of love that might break beneath society's stern gaze. "Why do you have to be so perfect?" I said, my voice trembling as I reached for her hand, pulling it close. "You're more than enough for me, Mia. The world doesn't always see it that way," she admitted, letting out a shaky breath. Just as her words registered, the laughter of the crowd echoed through the room, punctuating the tension hanging between us. A part of me felt isolated, as if we stood on a precipice where unseen forces threatened to knock us off balance. The next challenge unfolded eerily, highlighted by a series of flashing images projected before the audience. Each picture told a story of failures and heartbreaks, the sorrows of love interspersed with moments of triumph. Mia leaned into me, and though I could feel the warmth radiating from her, my thoughts stumbled back to Simon and the easy laughter they had shared. "Look," she said, her voice a whisper against the background noise. "We've made it this far. No matter what happens, we will face it together." The determination in her voice was both a comfort and a weight that anchored me, but a sudden chill shot through me when the projector displayed a picture of Evelyn laughing in the crowd, her eyes glinting with the mixture of sympathy and challenge. Just a flash, a mere moment, but something about her expression sent my mind racing back to childhood memories, where she had always been present, a persistent thorn amidst my blooming relationship with MIA.as. We moved to the final leg of the challenge, my pulse quickened with trepidation. The ultimatum on my phone echoed in my ears, reverberating with a frantic urgency that felt intrinsic to the storm brewing around us. "Will you leave if you fail?" came Simon's voice unexpectedly, corrupting my thoughts. I turned to see him smirking, clearly relishing in the emotional balance between us. Nothing made me want to lash out more. Yet, before my retort could take flight, Mia interjected, her eyes fiery with sudden resolve. "You know, our love isn't defined by winning or losing. It's about more than that. Is it?" I asked, vulnerability creeping into my words. "What if the world finds us wanting?" "I won't let fear decide that for us," she replied fiercely, her gaze unwavering, even as my heart quaked under the weight of uncertainty. But then a whisper cut through the noisy, a voice so familiar yet so piercingly alien in this context that it froze me on the spot. "Windsor." It was the soft inflection of my mother's voice, the hesitant presence I had once yearned for. My heart thudded painfully as I spun around. "Mom?" I gasped, disbelieving. Indeed, there she stood, her expression flickering between hope and apprehension. She should not have been here. Not now. Not in this place where the stakes were so frighteningly high. "Windsor, please," she implored, stepping closer, the movement almost instinctual. "There's so much you don't know about why I left." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths that threatened to unravel the very fabric of my reality. My world tilted, my heart pounding with confusion and a sudden sense of impending chaos. As I stood frozen, I stole a glance at Mia. Her expression morphed from distress to uncertainty. Would this revelation tear us apart, just as the stakes had begun to rise? How was I to choose between the love I needed and the mother I had long sought to understand? The night that had begun with promise was now unraveling into uncertainty. Every test we faced unveiled deeper layers of love, yet simultaneously, each revelation threatened to consume us whole. As the crowd roared for the next round, my heart and spirit flared with a mixture of love and dread. What now? The sound of the audience, a collective heartbeat, surged like a tide against my chest. My mother stood before me, the embodiment of questions I had buried deep, and that surge was both electric and oppressive. The thrill of competition faded under the weight of a truth I was no longer ready to confront. "Mia," I began, but her eyes told me everything. The vulnerability I had just opened up in front of her now felt exposed and raw. I could sense the tremors of her heart like a distant drum, an echo of my own turmoil. "Windsor, are you okay?" she mouthed, though the words felt trapped between USA Bridge, now haunted by the ghosts of what needed to be said. Simon's taunting grin faded into the background, replaced by a persistent pressure in my chest. "Mom, I don't understand." "Why now?" I managed to ask, my voice barely rising above a whisper. It felt as if the world around us had shrunk to just the three of us, me, mother, Mia, and the thick tension of unshared history looming large. "That I had to see you." "To explain," she said, her voice trembling as she reached out to touch my arm. I flinched instinctively, a reflex from years of hurt. "I know I abandoned you, but abandoning me isn't something you can just explain away," I snapped, the words slipping from my lips like salt on an open wound. The audience's murmurs faded into a reverberating quiet, allowing every eye to rest upon our unraveling scene. Mia squeezed my hand, her warmth a lifeline I desperately clung to. "Windsor," she said softly, "take a breath. We can face this together." The raw love in her voice was a tether pulling me back from the edge of an abyss. But my mother's presence loomed like a storm cloud ready to drown out that light. "No, you don't understand," she insisted, her eyes wide, pleading. "You have to know there were reasons for everything, and I want to make it right. Your father, he was hurting us both." My breath hitched. I had spent years piecing together the shards of memories to create a version of my childhood. Unraveling the truth now felt like tossing those fractured pieces into a fire. Would it consume me in flames of resentment or illuminate the dark corners of my heart? just then, a haunting image flashed in my mind, a memory of laughter and late nights spent together as a familiar stark contrast to the ruins of my teenage years. Did my mother even remember those magical moments, or was she too trapped in her own regrets? MIA's grip tightened on my hand as she sensed my inner turmoil. "We're still here, Windsor," she whispered, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this chaos. Her eyes shone with unwavering resolve, a beacon in the tempest of my emotions. "Together," I echoed, though my voice was laced with uncertainty. But as I looked back at my mother, the weight of her gaze bore into me, and I wavered. "But you left. You chose to walk away, because I thought it was for the best," she urged, desperation creeping into her tone. "I thought you would be fine without me, that your father would protect you. I was wrong, and I've regretted it every single day, every day." "Really?" I scoffed, sarcasm laced with disbelief. "You've had years to make amends, only to decide to show up." "No, at the peak of my greatest fear, the tension surged again, and I struggled to keep my emotions in check. My heart ached for understanding, yet it was only met with the reality of scars too deep to mask. "Please, Windsor," she said, her voice trembling. "All I'm asking for is a chance to explain, to be a better Motherto, be there for you this time." Her plea floated on the fragile air between us, a whisper wrapped in the hope of redemption. "Can you really undo all those years?" I asked, the question laced with vulnerability. "Maybe not all," she admitted, her expression shifting to one of self-awareness mingled with sorrow. "But I can start now. I want to help you understand how much I love you, even from afar." "Mia," I turned toward her, grappling for her connection as my lifeline. But my resolve wavered against a new swell of emotions threatening to drown me. What if I can't forgive her? Then we'll find the strength to navigate. "That, too," she assured me gently, squeezing my hand once more. "I believe in us, Windsor. Just take one step at a time." But standing across from my mother felt like a precipice that could lead to either forgiveness or an irreparable chasm. The stakes of love and reconciliation grew ever more complex. Suddenly, a sharp noise broke through my contemplation, the rustle of an envelope, paper sliding against paper. My heart dropped, a sense of foreboding coiling in my gut. I glanced to where Simon had been, only to see him smirk as he held out a piece of paper toward the host, a motion silhouetted against the buzzing audience. "Let's reveal the next challenge, shall we?" he called out, reveling in the moment. My heart quickened, a chaotic mix of anxiety and dread. I knew something would shift in ways we hadn't yet anticipated. As the host opened the envelope and read the letter, my world began to tilt, the stakes now soaring impossibly high. "The next challenge requires a card drawn that can change your fate. You can choose the path of reconnecting with someone or block their entrance into your life for good." A strange mix of fear and exhilaration surged through me, leaving me yearning for clarity as the revelation of the next challenge hit like lightning. In this moment, I felt the crowd biting at their nails, the air electric with tension, mixed with the unbearable weight of impending choice. Would I risk the possibility of forgiveness for the love I had sought for so long, or would I turn away from the woman who had crafted so much of my pain? As Mia leaned in closer, the intensity of her love grounding me, I realized how much this moment could change everything. The world teetered on a razor's edge, ready to plunge into uncertainty once more. What now? The world around me faded into a muted blur as the host's words reverberated back in the cavern of my mind. Just as the stakes of competition had reached a fever pitch, the air grew thick with my decision's looming shadow. How could a simple card draw hold the weight of so much? MIA's warmth beside me felt like an anchor in stormy seas. "Windsor, whatever you choose, I'm here," she reiterated, her voice steady despite the tempest swirling in my chest. Each word was a soft reminder that hope was not as fragile as it seemed. The crowd shifted restlessly, their anticipation palpable. Simon's delighted expression twisted the knife deeper, his eyes alight with the chaos of my impending choice. Part of me wanted to shrink away from the spotlight, to hide my heartache beneath layers of pretense, yet a deeper truth compelled me to confront what lay ahead. Do I even want to reconnect with her? I questioned, my voice too soft for the buzz of the audience. Do I want to risk everything to hear her excuses? Mia watched me, her brow creased in thought. You told me you want to understand. This could be your chance, Windsor. But it's yours to take. I exhaled slowly, wrestling with the paradox of my emotions. Each heartbeat felt like a ticking clock echoing my unresolved questions. Could I truly welcome back the person who had caused me so much pain? And yet, hidden beneath the layers of bitterness was a tangled desire for answers, for clarity, maybe even for a semblance of family. With renewed focus, I turned back to my mother, taking a breath that ignited courage within me. But instead of the longing gaze of forgiveness, her features mirrored a desperate vulnerability. She was not merely a player in my life's mess, she had been enmeshed in a far more complex struggle than I'd initially perceived. Windsor, she said, her voice almost a whisper, this is your journey now. You can connect or create distance. Just know, no matter what happens, I'll love you always. Every syllable fell like heavy raindrops in the silence that enveloped us. I thought of all those years filled with unanswered prayers, me hopes tinged with longing woven tightly into memories of a fractured family. Do I still want her in my life? I pondered. It felt like a tumultuous sea roiling beneath my surface, pulling every bit of resolve with it. And then, just as I was ready to summon an answer, something remarkable happened. An unexpected gesture of kindness interrupted the tension. A distant voice called out from within the audience. Windsor, you're not alone. We've got your back. Choose what feels right to you. A ripple of voices joined in, creating an unexpected chorus that buoyed my spirit. For a moment, the weight of my decision lightened. In this vast crowd, strangers had united as one, reminding me that their support existed in a way I had ignored too long. See? Mia said softly, squeezing my hand again, fostering a renewed sense of belonging. You're not in this alone. You've always had people rooting for you. Sometimes, we don't see beyond our fears. Her words cascaded through me like sunlight breaking through a storm. Maybe this was less about reconnecting with my mother and more about reconnecting with myself, grasping the love and understanding I yearned for, and in turn, maybe grasping forgiveness. With resolve blossoming, I finally glanced at the audience, searching for that connection of hope. Their faces held encouragement, and within that sea of humanity, I felt a warmth wrapping around me, softening the edges of my pain. But just as the ground beneath me began to feel steadier, the host cleared his throat, breaking through the moment of hope. So, Windsor, what will it be? A chance to reconnect with your mother or to sever ties? I stood frozen, caught in the delicate balance between the future I yearned to build and the past I couldn't deny. It felt like facing the very fire of my memories, an invitation to surrender to the truth buried beneath layers of hurt. And then, right as I summoned the words that could redefine everything, I noticed a flicker from the corner of my eye. My mother's phone buzzed wildly on the table, a flashing message scrolling across the screen. It was so open, the words very much visibly a singular message that stopped my heart cold. I know where you are. It's time for you to face the truth. The pulse of my mind raced, leaving a chilling confusion that cut deeper than the audience's expectant whispers. Was this another layer of hidden history I was yet to discover? Panic laced my thoughts, and all the emotion I had just woven into courage tumbled into a freefall of dread. What truth? I blurted out, my voice rising unsteadily as I struggled to process the swirling chaos unfolding before me. What do you mean? My mother's eyes widened, fear and surprise mingling at what the message delivered. Windsor, I don't know, she stammered, fumbling with her phone, as if it might offer some answer. In the throes of impending revelations, the once solid ground beneath me seemed to split open. Would I ever truly know the depths of my mother's sacrifices? And what else lay hidden, waiting to rewrite the narrative of my heart? My heart raced wildly now, every part of me suspended between choices. Shall I reconnect with the mother who had plagued my past, or sever the thread that bound us, only to find out that the betrayal ran far deeper than imagined? In this moment, life shifted, and everything hung in a tenuous balance, teetering between the horrifying unknown and the flicker of hope yet to be echoed. The future stared back at me, dark and uncertain, shrouding my next move in a cloak of bewildering potential. would I be brave enough to draw upon the truth that was lurking just beyond the horizon? Or would I allow fear to shackle me in the past? The atmosphere buzzed with the weight of unspoken truths, the audience's anticipation turning my heart into a drum, each beat reverberating through the tension. I faced my mother, her eyes reflecting my turmoil, and all the emotions I had been suppressing surged like a tidal wave. What truth? I demanded, urgency mixing with hurt. I don't know, she stammered again, her voice trembling as she grappled with her own fears. But something is happening. I need to protect you. Protect me? From what? Did she harbor secrets darker than the ones I had always assumed? The walls of my childhood, the laughter, the love crumbled under the pressure of her presence, each moment echoing with the past I tried to understand. Mia squeezed my hand, grounding me in the chaos unfolding. Windsor, breathe. Let's face this together. Her voice was a soft anchor, yet I could sense the ripple of unease coursing through her, the uncertainty mirrored in her stormy blue eyes. The memories of my mother leaving, her silhouette disappearing from my life, clashed against the warmth I felt for Mia, the whirlwind of emotions spiraling as I tried to reconcile these two women, my past and my future. The uncertain thrumming in my chest morphed into something more palpable. This moment wasn't just a game, it was a defining choice that could alter everything. Windsor, my mother said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. You deserve to know the truth I kept hidden. There were reasons for my choices. Not just pain, but also love. This story is ours, and I want to share it. Emotions clashed within me. Could I even entertain the notion of allowing her back into my life? Would this truth, whatever it may be, bring us closer or deepen the wounds I thought had healed? In the midst of the tension, Simon's laughter echoed in the background, taunting. Seems like love can't conquer everything, he sneered, reveling in the chaos we'd unwittingly unleashed. But something shifted in me. You know what? I began, turning to face the audience. I choose to reconnect. I choose to listen. The words felt like a storm brewing within, and the crowd erupted in cheers, a cacophony of hope that enveloped me in a warm embrace. Mia's eyes widened with surprise, and I could sense the weight of my decision solidify the air around us. I could feel her heart beating in sync with Minaya's strong, reassuring presence anchoring me as I took a tentative step toward my mother. The room fell silent, the audience absorbed in a breath suspended in anticipation as I turned back to my mother. I'm not saying it will be easy, or that I understand everything. But perhaps that's part of the journey. Let's find this truth together. My mother's face crumpled, tears spilling over her cheeks as she nodded and took a step closer. In that small gesture, I glimpsed years of heartache, a silent acknowledgement of the bond we could still forge. Mia stayed just beside me, a constant in this swirling storm. I could feel her strength bolstering my courage, each heartbeat a reminder of what love truly meant. Let's face it all together, I said, my voice steadying, quiet yet powerful against the tide of uncertainty. With a trembling hand, my mother reached out, and in that moment, I felt the distance between us shift. The gesture felt monumental, the beginnings of understanding bridging the gap between the past and future. The audience cheered, a wave of warmth enveloping us. For the first time in ages, I felt the soft tendrils of hope wind around my heart, making it lighter, inviting in the possibility of renewal. Yet, it was as if the veil of uncertainty was still shrouding us in a tighter embrace. My mother had secrets left unvoiced. As she wrapped her arms around me, I tried to push back the fear, the snide comments from Simon fading away, and let myself breathe. But then, just as I sank into that tentative embrace, I felt a sharp tug at my sleeve. It was Mia, her eyes filled with a depth of emotion that swiftly pulled my focus. Windsor, she said urgently. Confusion filled my chest as I looked between them, searching for her resolve. We can't lose sight of what we fought for, of what we believed in. Her voice cracked, yet within it lay a fierce determination, a reminder that amid our reunions and reconciliations, we still held our own story. Mia, I need you to understand, I replied, my heart pounding. This is not a surrender. This is the opening of a dialogue, a chance for us to finally understand. But her gaze pierced through me, a flicker of anguish wrapped in the layers of her fierce heart. And what if the truth brings pain instead of healing? Her question hung in the air, and I could feel the weight resting between us, a delicate balance where love and fear collided. Then we'll navigate that storm too, I whispered, squeezing her hand tightly as if promising to fight for both of us. That moment brought everything swirling back to clarity. You're stronger than you think, Mia. We'll redefine our narrative together. No storm will tear us apart. The light broke through as my mother's hand slipped away, leaving me standing between two worlds, one marred in shadows and one touched by dawn's blush. As the audience burst into applause and cheers, the emotional tide lifted. I could hear the voices calling out me past and my future urging me to take the leap. Love is worth the fight, I declared, letting each word draw the path before us more clear. And to fight, we must face the truth. So, let's begin together. With that declaration, the world around us shifted, filled with infinite possibilities, charged with the raw, pulsating energy of love, both fragile and fierce. And in the moment that lingered, I knew our journey had just begun. The last line seeped from my heart into reality like a fragile promise. In the unlikeliest storms, we define what it means to truly love, and together, we will weather them all.